I could never get someone to click on this video. That's an example of a limiting belief. Whenever we step out of our comfort zones and take action, limiting beliefs pop up. I'm going to walk you through why limiting beliefs happen and what you can do to conquer them. This includes 6 strategies that I've taught to hundreds of people who since then have used them to radically change their life. If you follow these steps, I am confident that you will work through the things that are holding you back and accomplish great things. Before we can talk about how to overcome limiting beliefs, we need to talk about why they pop up in the first place. Limiting beliefs are natural. They come from our limbic system, or what some call our lizard brain, because of its primitive nature. Our limbic system is responsible for our mood, our emotions, and even addiction. Scientists have shown that fear is a natural response to perceived danger. Our bodies do a really good job of keeping us safe. Think of the fight or flight response to danger. This natural response to danger serves us well in so many situations. Unfortunately, our bodies can get it wrong. This fight or flight response can lead us to shy away from things that wouldn't actually harm us. There was actually a study to figure out how often these imagined calamities actually happened. What they found was that 85% of the time, it doesn't actually happen. And of the 15% of the time that it does, 79% of people found that they could either handle it better than expected or they learned something valuable from it. If you do the math, this means that 97% of the time we're worried about something that we don't actually need to be worried about. Do we really want something that could happen 3% of the time to hold us back and keep us from working toward our goals? If we don't do anything to conquer these limiting beliefs, they will hold us back from doing the things that we want to do. They could keep us from exploring a new career, a new relationship, a new hobby, or so much more. Before we talk about conquering our limiting beliefs, let's talk about identifying them. If you're struggling to identify your limiting beliefs, I would encourage you to ask yourself 3 questions. First, what negative thoughts do I have about myself or the situation that could hold me back? Second, what am I worried about? And third, what could hold me back from taking the first step? This video is focused on conquering your limiting beliefs. But if you're still having trouble identifying them, I'm going to drop a resource in the description below that will help you go further to identify your limiting beliefs. Once you have your list of limiting beliefs, we can start to work through the 6 strategies. I'm going to introduce you to my comprehensive approach to conquer your limiting beliefs. There are 6 different strategies that all work together, and if you put all of these into practice, you will take back control of your life and move forward toward your goals. And I think most of you will agree with me that number 6 is the most important. When you pull out your limiting beliefs, the first step is to flip the script. Take one of your limiting beliefs and say the opposite and see if you could believe that it's true. Let's look at 2 examples. The first is, leaving my job is irresponsible. To flip the script, you would simply say, leaving my job is not irresponsible. That one's pretty easy. Let's look at another one. The second limiting belief is, I'm not as good as other people at making money. So to flip the script, I would say, I'm just as good as other people at making money. After you flip the script, it's important to pause and ask yourself, do I actually believe that this new statement is true? Most of the time, the answer will be no. And that's why we have 5 other strategies. The second strategy is to look for evidence. So you'll start by asking yourself, what evidence do I have that this limiting belief is or is not true? To answer this question, you'll first reflect on your personal experience. What evidence do you have from your own life that this limiting belief isn't true? And Are there negative experiences that you have that might lead you to believe that it is true? It's also important to look at those so that you can assess the likelihood of this thing happening again. And if you don't have experience at all with it from your own life, look at the experiences of others who are in similar situations. Let's apply this to the same two examples. So example number one is leaving my job is irresponsible. So first you would ask, what evidence do I have that leaving my job would actually be irresponsible? And do I know other people who have left their jobs? Do I think that them doing so was irresponsible? And finally, I would ask, are there actually situations in which staying in your job would actually be the irresponsible thing to do? The second example is I'm not as good as other people at making money. Ask yourself, what evidence do you have of this? Do you have evidence that you've made money doing things in the past? And do you have evidence that there are people who are in a similar situation as you who are making money doing the thing that you want to? Is there actually evidence that they're so much better at it than you are? Finding evidence for or against a limiting belief can help you look at it logically and help you remove emotion from the equation. I've found that looking at evidence often deflates the limiting belief and makes it lose some of its power. The third strategy is to ask questions. Someone once told me that they combat their imposter syndrome by inviting it in for coffee and asking it questions. This seemed like a really great analogy for working through limiting beliefs. When I'm working through tricky limiting beliefs, I often think of it as a dialogue between my inner critic and my inner coach. And I lean on questions like this to help me better understand the situation. Why do I actually believe that this is true? Where does this belief actually come from? What is the real issue here? What is the worst thing that could happen in this situation? If that worst case scenario happened, what would I do? And would I still be okay? For the sake of time, let's focus on one example here. I'm not as good as other people at making money. Let's dive into some questions. Why do I actually believe that this is true? Who are these other people who I am comparing myself to? Do I actually need to make as much money as they do? Could I be comparing my beginning to their middle? Can I think of a time where I was a beginner and I learned something new successfully? Asking yourself questions with compassionate curiosity is incredibly helpful when working through limiting beliefs. And I have another limiting belief that I would like to share with you. It's that no one will like this video. So can you help me overcome this? Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you'll hear more content like this from us. The fourth strategy is to articulate an empowering belief instead. After you go through the first three strategies, it's important to articulate, what do I actually believe now instead? It's okay if you only believe it here and you don't yet believe it here. That's what strategies 5 and 6 will help you with. Let's go back to the example about leaving my job. So instead of saying, leaving my job is irresponsible, let's transform that into an empowering belief. The empowering belief may go something like this. Leaving my job is not irresponsible if I set myself up financially for the transition and I have a plan to generate income in the future. I trust myself to be resourceful, and there may even be cases where staying in a toxic job would be irresponsible. The next strategy is to test your limiting belief. It's like you're trying it on to see if you actually believe that it's true. In order to do this, you need to take action. So you'll experiment, you'll take a small step, you'll move forward as if this new empowering belief is true, and then you'll ask yourself, do I actually believe it? I like to say that confidence comes from taking action. If we wait to take action until we feel confident, we'll never take action, because taking action is the thing that actually builds our confidence. So after you start taking action, reflect on the empowering belief and ask yourself if you are starting to believe that it feels true. The sixth strategy is to build a supportive community. Of all the strategies that I shared in this video, this is the most important one. The goal is to make your ambitious goals seem normal. When you surround yourself with like-minded people who are moving toward and achieving their goals, you start to believe that it's possible for you to achieve the same thing. Community isn't all about confidence, though. It's also about having a group of peers who can help you work through challenges and brainstorm new ideas. And when you provide encouragement and ideas to others, the voice in your own head becomes a lot kinder. You start to hear yourself saying encouraging and positive and helpful things to other people, and then wonder, why can't I just apply those things to myself? If you're looking for community, there are a number of different options. You could find an accountability partner, join a mastermind, join themed communities online, like our Slow-Fi Enthusiast Facebook group. If you want to collaborate more with us and like-minded people, we'll drop a link for that group below. You can also invest in yourself by signing up for group or individual coaching, or find a mental health counselor or therapist. I was recently helping one of my clients work through her limiting beliefs, and she had a light bulb moment. And she said, "This is the secret sauce of lifestyle design, isn't it? You dream big, experiment, work through your limiting beliefs, build confidence, and take the next step. It's a virtuous cycle." She was spot on, and I hope that you can all embrace the same experimentation mindset as her, because experimentation is incredibly important for overcoming your limiting beliefs. If you want to avoid getting stuck in this process, taking an experimentation approach is incredibly important, which I talk about in this video. Thank you for joining me today, and as always, enjoy the journey.